Life is complex, so is our mental health. It cannot be understood by diagnosis alone. Our philosophy is treat the person, not the mental illness.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Humanizing Mental Health. This is Jeremy Alcorn.
This is Trenton Akers.
And today, we are joined once again by Shirley Jones. In our last episode, we really just had a sample of what it is that she does. And today, we want to have a much broader conversation. The title of this really captures what we want to talk about. And that is, Shirley, do you do mind work? Do you do body work? And the answer is yes and yes. In fact, there's a quote that Shirley had prepared that we thought would really set the stage for what the rest of the conversation is going to be about.
So stress can affect movements or contractions of the GI tract. Many people with GI disorders perceive pain more acutely because their brains are more responsive to pain signals from the GI tract. Stress can make the existing pain seem even worse. Pain is a signal to our bodies that something is wrong. If we don't listen to our bodies will shut us down.
Interesting. When you say that makes me think of your first episode, and we were talking about the medical industry. And I mean, what is the first thing that when we have pain that the medical industry and the medical model give us, but drugs to dampen down that pain or to switch it off?
Trent, what I always explain to my clients in biofeedback sessions is I think that maybe prescription drugs could be used as a temporary solution, but never as something that you want to be taking the rest of your life. It's like cutting off a dandelion at the grass, right? You look out on the lawn and, everything looks good now because there's no yellow dandelion there. But underneath, the dandelion is sending up a whole bunch more shoots because that's how it survives. And that's what happens when you take a medication, right? It causes side effects in the body. You may not be aware of them, but then it causes other things to happen in the body as well. So you have other symptoms that show up.
Yeah, sure. And I really like that perspective. One of the things I want to be really clear about is that we're not telling any listener to stop taking medication.
Not at all.
No. But the bigger picture really rings true. Like, for example, there are rare times when someone would take an antidepressant ongoing throughout their life, but the standard idea that just take it and don't ever get off of it is actually not helpful most of the time. And so totally, when we're talking about pain in particular, we know that individuals that then would take opiates, over time, their pain sensors get sensitized, and their pain worsens as they take it longer. And so totally, I totally recognize and for sure agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, so the part about the gut-brain connection too is quite interesting to me, because when I work on my clients in biofeedback, I generally work on the digestive system. So if I'm working on the digestive system, really I'm working on the brain too, because there's such a connection between the two. In fact, I always work on the brain as well. In the neurolinguistic programming, there's a neurotransmitter and emotion panel. And once I'm done balancing that, then I go into a brain scan and just find the parts of the brain that are stressed and out of balance, and just run programs then to balance the parts of the brain. So you can see that the brain and the digestive system are always of utmost importance in a biofeedback session.
Yeah, like as you bring that up, I was thinking about back when I was doing or when I've done my depression and anxiety groups, and we talk about the level of serotonin and the amount of serotonin that is. There's more serotonin made in the gut than there is in the brain, and about that the gut or the brain actually sends more information down to the gut than the gut actually sends up to the brain. So that is really our or one of our first embodied brains, isn't it? If I'm wrong.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the other part of that too that I'm going to bring in is the autonomic nervous system, right? The vagus nerve attaches to the brain and then to all the organs and the stomach as well. And they think that the vagus nerve may be responsible for transporting that serotonin.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. The vagus nerve, one of the nerves that I sense that probably all of us talk about with our clients more often than not.
Yeah, it's funny. This is joining into this. I remember is a very good massage therapist, but I was seeing a massage therapist, and they were using the biopsychosocial model on me.
Oh, good Lord.
They didn't know who was laying on their face on the on the face on their table, and so as they're talking about things, as they're like, it's all brain. And I was like, no, it's not all brain. Like, actually, your guts make more serotonin than your brain does. Like, if this was all brain, I would have figured it out a long time ago with my cognition, and I can't. Yeah. Like, that's why I'm here to see you, is because my mind is not just in my brain. My mind is in my whole body.
Yeah, and I think that's where the disconnect is that people were, like, years and years ago, they were treating specific organs or symptoms in organs. And really, like, your body works like a team. So if one of the organs, like in Chinese medicine, let's say the small intestine and the heart are paired organs. So if one of the organs is slacking, then the other organ is overactive to try and compensate for that lack of energy that the other organ is producing.
Interesting. When you bring that up, it almost makes me think of, I think it was either, it's probably ancient Greek, like where they talk about all the different biles in the body, like, like it was black bile, white bile, yellow bile, and trying to make sure all of those biles are balanced. It almost makes me think of, like trying to find the balance for all of those organs is kind of a similar idea with the biles. Yeah.
Yeah, so the other part of the, talking about the autonomic nervous system, that's probably one of the most profound panels that I run consistently with everyone. I don't think there's very many people that have balanced autonomic nervous systems.
Yeah, I really agree with you. Like, we live in a toxic world that has pummeled us down, and we've come to a place in which we believe somehow that we're these individuals that aren't interrelated. And really, the biggest thing that I'd seen in COVID was that so many people were disconnected that there was like a pervasive, like, system-based nervous system across our society in which everybody was down. And because everyone was down, any interaction you had brought us further down.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we're not separate from one another. Our energy intermingles, right? So I agree, Jeremy, that it affected everyone terribly.
In fact, I don't know about other people. It seems to me that all of a sudden people seem to be starting to wake up.
Exactly.
And it's like, as one person wakes up, then that energy moves to other people and they start to wake up too. It's like our society is coming out of a mass depression.
Yeah. What was it? I was reading a book the other day. It's called Why Therapy Works, which I can't wait to discuss on the podcast. But they were talking about the fact that human beings are basically what they would call superorganisms, which it kind of equates to a similar idea as the same as beehives.
Or ants. Yeah.
Or ants. We're all interrelated. So like when we're trying to balance things out, it's the biology and it's our social environment that really counterbalance and interact with each other.
Yeah, and it seems like as you talk about this, Shirley, that the evidence for that seems to be found in that autonomic nervous system. That's where it seems to settle and get stuck.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the first programs that I run for people, for my clients when they come in, is to make sure that usually it's the vagus nerve that is unbalanced. I just had a client in the other day, and she came in with like when I ask a client where their stress or anxiety level is, they give me a number between 1 and 10, and hers was an 8 or 9 out of 10. And so I ran the programs for an hour and a half, balancing her autonomic nervous system, the neurotransmitters, the emotions, all the programs for anxiety and depression. So at the end of the session, I asked her what her anxiety level was, and she said 0.
Wow. That's amazing. You went from one side of the spectrum all the way to the other.
You looked and you're like, oh, you're not even a person anymore. You're melted butter in the chair.
Yeah. I think you've mentioned to me before, and I wonder if it's with that, like you've actually said that people have fallen asleep in your chair.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had one gentleman come in, and I told him that he could fall asleep in this chair. You put your feet up, and, it's quite comfortable, but some people just don't think that they can sleep in that position. So I told him he could sleep, and he's like, no, I can't. He said, I won't sleep. Okay. So I started running the programs, ran the autonomic nervous system balance, and usually that really relaxes people. So he fell asleep, and 1.5 hours later, I woke him up, and I said, you're done. And he said, well, I thought you were going to work on me for an hour and a half. And I said, I did. And he jumped, and he said, I can't believe that.
Looks at his watch. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like,
So
what are you talking about, Willis?
Yeah, it sounds like it was just such a natural sleep that he didn't even notice that he even woke up.
yeah, it's almost like a deep meditation or something.
Trance.
Trance or,
Yeah.
But he actually had 20 years of chronic pain. And that day he left and he had no more pain. He phoned me the next day and said that he couldn't believe it, that he was pain-free after 20 years.
Wow. And how long did those effects usually last?
I haven't contacted him again since. That's been about probably 2 or 3 weeks. I generally tell people to come back if they feel the symptoms start to return. Sometimes you can't totally wipe it out in one session. You need a couple or 3 sessions. But he hasn't contacted me, so I am assuming that he's still pain-free.
Yeah. So like the rest of us, you're actually trying to work yourself out of business.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's something very curious about what you say, because we did an episode that was about psychedelic assisted therapy. We did an episode that was about hypnosis. And actually what you're describing really sounds like another method to get someone into a very similar state of being. And it just really shows to me there's multiple roads to the same location.
Absolutely. There was an individual that I know, his brother is a doctor, and he used to say that from his brother's perspective, what he said is that Western medicine only knows about 5 to 10%. The other 90% is educated guesswork. So I'm wondering, how much of that knowledge are you uncovering that they have yet to discover yet?
Yeah, I think there's so many years of, it's not hidden information, but information that's been kept from us. And you really have to dig deep to find this information. But once you do, it's incredible, like the healing that some of these modalities and therapies have on a person,
In fact, even in my lifetime, it feels like my parents held some common knowledge about things to do when there was some kind of ailment. that that's just vanished.
Yeah.
Even the notions around nutrition, around how you create a meal in a way that you have a combinations of foods that are going to work together was more common knowledge. And at this point in time, I think a lot of that is just lost.
Yeah, you could almost say, like, how many individuals now even know how to make things from scratch? Like when you talk like a pie crust or anything, we're so used to just going to the grocery store and buying things, or for a lot of individuals going for fast food. And like, really, how does that disconnect us from our bodies, what we need, and disconnect us from the world around us, and really understanding how food is grown and made?
Exactly. One other piece of information that I wanted to share too was when I was working in oil and gas years ago, I was asked to do a presentation. It was February, which is Heart Health Month. So I thought I would go on the Heart and Stroke website to get some information that I could share with the operators. And I was actually shocked when I went on the website to learn that they promote eating 7 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables every day to prevent heart attack and stroke.
Wow.
So I got thinking, I didn't even think that I ate that much. I've eaten pretty healthy all my life, but I started counting then, and I wasn't probably getting 10 servings of fruits and vegetables. So I came up with some tricks that people can use in their own diets to be able to get that amount of fruits and vegetables in your diet. And one of the reasons that you want to include that much fruit and vegetables is to alkalinize the body. When the body is in an alkaline state, it's in a health state. If it's acidic, then you are open to diseases and pain, especially acidic pain, hampering your mobility.
Interesting. I had an experience this last weekend that I think really matches with part of this conversation. I was at a Brazilian barbecue. And if you know these things, we get there, and the two other friends that I was with, friends all the way back to high school, they walk up to the salad bar, and I was like, that's not what you do at a Brazilian barbecue, What you're supposed to do is keep that green side up, and you eat as much meat as you can. And the only thing is, this place also had pineapple that was also on the rotisserie, and I ate 31 pieces altogether at the Brazilian barbecue that night. And my friends stopped, and I kept going, and I was like, wow, why is it that this is happening? And then I realized, oh, I've actually had a lot of slices of pineapple, and the pineapple is actually helping the digestion of the meat.
Exactly.
And I was like, I that didn't come to me. The reason that I'm eating all of this pineapple is not just because it tastes good. It's because my body is telling me you need this.
Yes, to help digest the meat. You're exactly right, Jeremy.
And then my digestion, didn't get messed up. My digestive tract continued to function as it normally did, as if I had just normally been eating whatever I eat. And I don't eat that much meat all the time.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you bring that up, because there's another colleague that we work with, Dakota, which hopefully we'll have her on another episode. And we were actually talking about with her daughter, and because she works a lot with eating disorders, and we were talking about the fact that kids know how to eat, they know what they need to eat. Like, our body is tuned for that. With a lot of our society, we actually divorce ourselves from how we are supposed to eat.
Yeah, there's programs in my biofeedback device too that actually help people with eating disorders, and people that eat for emotional reasons usually are triggered by what's called a hypothalamus gallbladder connection.
Interesting.
And it's this information that's stored in our body that makes us eat for emotional reasons. But when you break that hypothalamus gallbladder connection, then you're able to eat for nutritional and health reasons instead of emotional reasons.
And it's interesting, once again, different ways at getting at different things, because, in my frame of reference, when you describe that, I would be going in the chain of connection. Why is the biology off? Because I rarely see that biology is actually the cause, it's an effect. And then to me, I go, I wonder what trauma happened in that person's life that influenced that, whether it was an event, whether it was an attachment injury, whatever that was, because then, in my frame of reference, I usually am going through the process of helping them release their connection to that event. And so it's interesting, there's multiple ways to get at things.
Yeah, different ways you can slice the onion, right?
And there's not just one that works for everyone. There's been times in which someone has come in to see me and I've done, my bag of tricks are spent. So then I've gone, but I know someone that has a different way of doing things. And I recommend that you see Shirley. Mm-hmm.
So, and I think sometimes, I know that Anna, another person that has been on the podcast, that sometimes, hasn't she referred people to see you first sometimes?
Yes, for sure. Just on that note of trauma too, we really have to get to the root of the problem. And generally, trauma is at the root of most problems. Mm-hmm. Trauma, which is fear-based. And so I run a program in biofeedback that identifies the traumas that are most prevalent in that client today, as I run the program. I bring those to the client's attention, not that they have to talk about it or anything. I just ask them if these traumas make sense to them. Some of them are as early as being carried in their mother's womb. So, obviously they're not going to know what happened then or even at the age of 1 or 2. Sometimes they can ask their parents and find that out. But then when I run the program to release these traumas, the client then just sits back in the chair and visualizes these traumas leaving the body, going up into the ether, being recreated as joy, peace, love, and coming back to heal our earth. And that's just as simple as it is.
I love that. I love that visualization, because for myself, I always talk about with people about accepting those parts of ourselves and helping them find new jobs. And that really speaks to me in that vein.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, this has been a fascinating conversation. What I'd like to do is if it's okay, just have a little bit of a reflection from each one of us about what this conversation has meant to us, what has stood out. And for me, the biggest thing that jumped out was that I really do need to be able to trust myself more. Trust my body when it's giving me a pain signal. Trust myself when it's like, I feel like I need to eat this thing. Well, unless it's a cheesecake, then that might be a different reason. But recognize that there's some trust that can happen there, and that I can allow that to guide some of what I'm doing.
Yeah. And for me, as an individual that I've used the medical system quite a bit, where it's really, when it comes to pain and inflammation, always kind of going back to myself and not just going back to the old feeling of, okay, I need to take a pill. Maybe there's another avenue that I can explore as well that will help me out with that.
Yeah, and I think that's true, Trent. What I try and instill in my clients is to get back in touch with who you are. Mm-hmm. You get signals from your body, and like that gut reaction when something's right and something's not right. So if we can learn to trust our intuition, mm-hmm. we will be way further ahead in life if we can rely on that and not just stumble through life and expect good things out of it.
And Shirley, do you have any other final comments that would kind of wrap up your thoughts about what stands out to you this in this conversation?
Well, I just really appreciate, hearing different perspectives. Like you said, there's more than one way to deal with any problem that we have. And it's always fascinating to me, talking to you that have studied in a different fashion than I have. So I really appreciate your valued opinions and shared experiences with me, and I thank you for having me on.
Well, you're welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure. And on that note, I'm Trenton Akers.
And I'm Jeremy Alcorn.
See you later.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope that this message has been as meaningful to you as it has been to us. If you're looking for help, you can find us on Facebook at Humanizing Mental Health.